Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. What can I say? It's such a beautiful day today here in Florida. It's sunny. It's breezy. It's going to be around the high 70s. And some of you might say, even it might even go up to 81 or 82. Some of you might say, oh, that's far too hot for me. But we live very close, a mile away from the beach, and we get all the ocean breezes. Plus, I live on a small lake, so we get all of the breezes from the lake. When I say a small lake, I live on a huge lake, but I only can see a small part of it. But anyway, that's a whole other thing. But we get all of those beautiful sea breezes, we get the breezes from the lake. So it really is a phenomenal and a fabulous and a beautiful, beautiful day here where I am in Florida, and I'm making the most of it. Now, um, let's see, before we begin, first of all, I'd like to say good morning to my spirit guide, Grey Eagle, who is here and is laughing at me because we are raring to go. And I would also like to say good morning, Chris. Good morning, good morning, good morning. How are you? Good morning.
Good morning, Rosemary. I'm doing well.
Good, good. And you're in Vermont, so
17-degree Vermont.
sorry, what?
17-degree Vermont.
Oh boy, oh boy. That's cold, right?
That is cold.
Are you
And it was
cold?
snowing this morning.
Really?
Yes.
Ooh, I'm so pleased I'm not there. um, and it's it's March. I mean, come on, it's spring is coming, and you still got snow. Isn't that awful, right? And of course, you could have snow in Vermont and in lots of different places in the country. You could have snow all the way through to the end of April, or even I've known it snow in May. But here we are in sunny Florida, and it's perfect and it's beautiful. And good morning to all of you watching, and we're pleased that you're here with us. And we were talking this morning, or Chris was talking this morning about what were you talking about, Chris?
Well, your Angels in Training book and
Angels
what
in
the
Training.
chapter is.
So this week in our Angels in Training, a beautiful little manual that we have, it is suggesting that we grow something. Chris, do you want to read a little bit of that for us?
Sure. Well, it's week 9, Plant a Tree and Watch It Grow is the title.
Right.
Whether you plant a tree, shrubs, flowers, or a window box with herbs in it, this week as an angel in training, begin to nurture something and watch it grow. Did you want more than that?
A little bit more. Why are we doing this?
Take some time to think about what you want to plant. Allow yourself to be inspired by your angels and choose something that you can truly nurture, something that you want to see grow. As you take this angel action, feel the soil beneath your fingers. Your energy will affect the plant, so think good, positive, tender, and nurturing thoughts. As an angel in training, try to understand the importance of talking to your plant as it grows. Connect with its energy and open up your mind to allow your energy to grow. Just as our angels are committed to nurturing us, so we should be committed to nurturing and taking care of our plants. Angel actions require us to think about and to take care of something or someone else, to be responsible and to take responsibility for your actions. Is that enough?
That's good. Now, if you're like me, I love gardening. Used to love gardening. Was a gardener for the most of my adult life. I was inspired by my father, who also was a gardener and loved gardening. I think we had more daffodils in the spring, which would be around this time, wouldn't it? We had more daffodils in our garden. I always think of Wordsworth's poem, Daffodils. I don't know if any of you know that poem, A Host of Golden Daffodils. And I always think of that poem, because when you see a field or a garden filled with daffodils, and they're bright and they're brilliant yellows and all sorts of, depending on the daffodils, if you've got a mix of daffodils, all sorts of yellows and sometimes white, and you know, a lot of people refer to daffodils as narcissus, because some of them are narcissus, the smaller ones are narcissus, but I personally love the large trumpet daffodil, which is big, bright, bold, beautiful yellow with beautiful, incredible orange stamens inside. And whenever I see daffodils, I think of the spring. And whenever I see daffodils, I think of my garden at home that I grew up with, which was filled with daffodils and peonies. And don't often see peonies anymore. I don't know if they're an old-fashioned plant that goes out of date or something, but I love peonies. And we used to collect peony petals and rose petals, my sisters and I, and we'd steep them in water and think we were making perfume. So we used to do that when we were kids. And when I had my own garden, I love old-fashioned gardens. I love delphiniums and hollyhocks and all those gorgeous, beautiful things that we have around. I love, oh gosh, I love so many flowers, that I'm a big, big, big flower person. I only ever once grew a vegetable garden, which was okay, but you know, just okay for me, because I love roses and I love pansies are one of my favorites. Pansies are coming up right now in many, many gardens, and the daffodils will start to be shooting up, and tulips, of course. And I love gladioli too, but they're a later summer flower, sort of getting in towards sort of July, August, maybe even into September time. I used to grow gladioli, and just because they're so tall and regal, and on and on and on we can go. But growing something, I think, especially growing something from scratch, growing something from seed, or taking a bulb and sort of putting it into the soil, I think watching things grow is the thing that gives us hope. It gives us, you know, no matter how you take a bulb and it's just this brown thing and it looks completely dead, and there's nothing to it, and you know, it's hard to imagine that there is life in there. It's hard to imagine that something beautiful can grow from this. It's very hard to imagine that, you know, that when you see the ground in the wintertime, and you see all of the plants and so on, and they look, you know, dead and totally, you know, people pull them out. They don't realize that they're not actually dead, they're just simply dormant. And I think is that if we can approach, when we look at life and we see things at the moment, that there's so many people having such trouble, such negativity, and it's not that life is dead. It's not that we're coming to the end of things. We're only coming to the end of one situation, the end of one cycle of life, and we're coming into the growth and the newness of something else. And boy, oh boy, is that a hopeful thing to do. I've been out this morning looking at my I have gardenias. I have 10 bushes. 5 of them I planted last year, and they're growing really beautifully, and they're quite a good size now. And 5 of them I put in just before Christmas, I think it was, or well, it must have been September or October time. And they're very small, but they're coming along beautifully, and the leaves are nice and shiny. I don't know if any of you know what gardenias look like, but what they smell like is amazing. And the ones I planted last year have literally clusters and clusters of buds. So I'm very excited about that. And if they flower, we had a few flowers at the end of last year, but we had a few buds, but before they were able to literally bloom, they sort of dropped off. I think that too much moisture or something, too much rain was going on, and they tend to rot if they have too much rain. But here we are, we've got clusters of them, and I'm going to take photos of them that Chris will put it on the website, and we'll put them out there to let you see how hopeful and beautiful life can be. And that's really, springtime is one of the most beautiful times of the year because it's the time of new hope, new beginnings, new life. And I think that if we take a leaf out of that little book of all of those plants that look dead and dying and they're no good anymore, and if we take a leaf out of their book and think to ourselves, well, we may be feeling awful on the outside here. We may be feeling a bit dead and dull and what have you. But if we remember that we are souls, that we have life and beauty and joy within us, and I think if we can take that and growing something, taking something, growing something, even if you don't have a garden, you can grow something. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. But just growing something and thinking to yourself as you are putting your hands in the soil, as you are sort of choosing something that you hope will grow, and you hope will, if you nurture it properly, it will grow and it will flower. And if you choose something wisely and you tend to it carefully, it gives you hope that if you tend to yourself carefully, if you tend to your soul, if you tend to your spirit, if you tend to feeding your soul, just imagine how beautifully you'll glow, and just imagine how those new beginnings and that new help will just flourish within you. Before we go to talking about things indoors, Chris, I'm hoping we've got people joining us this morning. Is there anybody there?
We do, and perhaps we can remind people, because we've got a few non-English speakers on, to try to use Google Translate.
Okay, yes, please, if you would, if you do not speak my language, use Google Translate, because we love having you on and we do want to hear what you have to say to us. But I do not speak well enough any other language but English. So if you want to communicate with me, find a way to do it so I understand what it is that you're saying. And go to Google Translate and it will translate what you're trying to say. And we'd love to have you do that for us. All right. So, Chris, I know that you've got a story to tell. Let's see if do we have any comments or anything going on in the chat room right now before I'm going to ask you to tell the story you told me this morning.
Oh, goodness.
which is
Yeah,
such a great
we
story.
have a lot of people in the chat room, and they are talking about their plants. And forgive me if you hear a jet in the background. They're going overhead right now.
It's fine.
All right. But I wanted to mention, because it was, I think, maybe the last paragraph in your Angels in Training book. You had written, as you tend and nurture your plants, you are also tending and nurturing your soul, your own
Yes,
soul. As you connect with the energy of your plants, you're also connecting with the energy of your own soul. And as you watch your plant flourish, you will be watching your own soul flourish.
that's
This is
right.
the joy and the beauty of being an angel in action, an angel in training.
Yes. Well, that's exactly right. And that's, I think, pretty much what I just said, because, when you plant something and you watch it grow and you watch it, the leaves begin to form, and then you hopefully, if you're growing flowers, then you'll watch the flowers, or if you're growing fruit, you'll see the buds come up. And when I lived in England all those years ago, my house was built. I had my house built. We bought a piece of land which was an old orchard, and on that orchard it had apple trees, pear trees, plum trees, you name it. It had fruit trees, and then I even put in some almond trees and almond blossom trees and so on. So it was an amazing, beautiful space. And just watching the fruit begin to form, and here in Florida, of course, people are starting to see those fantastic, what are they called, there's a particular orange which I love. It's so sweet. It's called something like something bell. Can't remember now what it's called, but anyway, it's time I went out and got some of those. Maybe I'll do that this afternoon. But there are so many things that you can grow, and some of them take time. Some of them, take months and months to see to fruition. like us, we can take months and months before we get ourselves back on track. It can take a while for us, for our soul to shine through, especially those of us who are new to this and are not quite sure how to nurture their soul. Growing something, watching it grow, and understanding that love and kindness, we're not only giving it to our plants, we're giving it to ourselves too. And love and kindness can really produce some incredible little miracles. So, um, is there anything that we need to address at the moment in the chat room, Chris? Or
No, no.
okay. So let me. I'm going to set the scene, everybody here. Chris was saying that this was the angel action this week, but she's not going to take the angel action because I forgot now what it was. Oh, because you're hopefully thinking of moving or changing. You don't want to plant anything. And I said, well, come on, you don't have to plant something outside. You can plant something inside. We're going to talk about some of the things you can plant inside. And we'd love to have your suggestions, everybody, for the things that, because a lot of people don't have a garden. And a lot of people think that if they don't have a garden, that means they can't do this angel action, which is so not true. All you need is a, a small windowsill or a small shelf in your kitchen, and you can grow something. But Chris said, well, yes, but, she said. And then she told me a story about what she did 18 months ago. And off you go, Chris, with this. This is a great story,
Great,
everybody.
great. Let's just embarrass me publicly, but that's all right. So I live in an apartment building, and with our apartment building comes 4-foot garden plots that people can lay claim to. And Mike and I sat there and we decided, what vegetables we liked the best and what we wanted to plant in our garden. And we got the seeds and we tilled the soil and we took out all the weeds and put a little bit of fertilizer in and, really readied the plot. And then we planted our seeds in rows and we waited. And anytime we didn't get rain, we were out there watering. We kept the soil moist. And then finally, the beginnings started to appear. I put a net around the whole outside because in the previous year we'd had rabbits come in and, eat the strawberries. And I really tenderly nurtured this plot. And these beautiful green, tall, strong things, started really shooting up very fast. And I'm like, the little tags that I had planted next to the vegetables to name what was coming up where had blown away. And so I wasn't quite sure what was coming up in this one section, but boy, it was coming up fast and it was doing really well. And eventually it got to be somewhere between 3 and 4 feet tall, and I still couldn't figure out what the heck I would have planted there. And then I did some research, they have these apps out there that you can compare leaves and it'll tell you what it is. And it was like, this is not broccoli. This is not whatever else I was trying to come up with. And it came up that whatever I was growing in there was a weed. And boy, I had tended it so well that these were like the strongest, the tallest weeds that were overtaking my whole plot. And so I had to take them out and put them in compost.
And how disappointed were you, Chris?
Oh, very.
But let me say something, and I said this to you earlier. In the Native American language, there are so many words that they don't use. It's not that they don't like them, it's that they don't have any meaning. One of those words is the word it. So if they're going to be talking about something, they will name what they are talking about. They won't refer to it as it. And if we think about that word, and when we're talking to our friends or our family and we're using words that are like it, we're referring to something, we're assuming that people know what it is that we mean when we use the word it. And that little word it is the culprit for so many misunderstandings, so many people thinking that we're talking about something that we are not talking about. So in the Native American language, there was never a word even remotely, not even a substitute word for it. If you were, or them, or I'm trying to think of other words. Perhaps next week I'll name all of the words. I have a list of those words, so we'll perhaps name those. Um, but one of the words that another word they don't have is promise, because if they're going to do something, they'll tell you they're going to do it, and they don't have to say I promise, because if they're going to do something, they just do it. That they were the rules of the society, of the Native American society. So they never had to use the word promise, because they either did something or they didn't do it, and they took the consequences. But so remember what I'm saying. They didn't even have a substitute word which meant the same thing. So it's fascinating, really, that in so many countries the languages are so different. And when you start to use words like promise and it and them, who knows who do we really know when we're talking to someone who say, oh, those people? What people? Did you name them? Does the person you're talking to know who it is you actually are meaning when you say them, or those over there, or what have you? So many things get caught up in miscommunication. But one of the words they also don't have any meaning for whatsoever, because there is no such thing to them, is the word weed. Everything is useful. Everything that grows has a purpose and has a plan. And I was saying to Chris, weeds flower just the same as any other plant, or most other plants. Weeds flower, or they produce, because they produce seeds. But all those little birds out there who want to eat those seeds, those fabulous, tasty little seeds that come from what we in the Western world consider weeds. Chris, when you pulled them up and put them on the compost, did you feel that? Did you think you were perhaps taking away food from all those little creatures out there who were looking forward to nibbling at those weeds?
I did not. What I did think was, wow, I have just given the rest of the plants in the plot a chance to see the sunshine.
Well, there you are. So now, coming back to that, so Chris said, so I'm not growing anything. And then we had a little conversation, because if you're going to do the Angels in Training, you are required, come on, be fair now, you are required, you've taken this on, you've got to grow something. So if you don't have a garden, or you don't have, I can hear some of you saying, yeah, but I don't have green fingers. Well, well then, you're only required to grow one little thing. And so I started telling Chris about some of the things that she could grow. Hyacinths, for instance. I mean, when you put a pot of hyacinths in your living room, or even whichever room it is, the smell is phenomenal. It is beautiful. They scent the whole house. It's like better than any candle fragrance you could buy, better than any of these new modern oils and things that you can buy now. A pot of hyacinths will do the trick. You can grow any bulb inside, any bulb in the house. You can grow. You can grow. So of course, for those of you who say, yeah, but I don't have green fingers, I did suggest to Chris that you can actually grow on a piece of kitchen paper. You can damp the kitchen paper, and go to Google, go anywhere at all, you'll find how to do it. You damp the kitchen paper and you sprinkle some cress seeds on, and the next thing you know, within a week, you'll have a whole beautiful bed, albeit tiny, because if you're only using one piece of kitchen towel, you'll have a beautiful bed of cress, which you can then cut and sprinkle over your salad, which is absolutely delicious. You can grow watercress that way. And so, come on, all of you out there, what are your suggestions of things for people who they don't have a garden, they maybe don't have green fingers, I'm a gardener, so I can pretty much grow anything, or anything I choose to grow seems to do well. That's all about energy, talking to them, giving them your energy, nurturing them with your love. I know it sounds crazy, but plants are living things, and they have their own aura, they have their own energy field, and they have their own blooming time, which is, amazing. So when you grow these things, the idea is to, you know, give them a little piece of you, uh, let your soul shine for them to see. And they will shine for you in turn. So lots of things that you can do. So it doesn't have to be a tree. It really doesn't have to be a tree. At this time of year, in England, I probably would have already gone out to choose my malus, Malus. A malus is a cherry tree with dark pink, fantastic flowers. And you can always tell a malus because it has this lovely reddish brown, uh, uh, I'm going to say stem, but trunk. Of course, if it, that when you buy them, it can only be small, but they grow fairly quickly and they usually have fabulous shapes to them. And I always like to, on my father's birthday, which is this month, and I always think about the growing the cherry trees, planting a tree for someone you love is a fantastic thing. Planting roses is a fantastic thing for someone you love in the spirit world, because as you're planting, you're thinking of them, and every time you look at them and every time they flower, they remind you of that person. And it's so that's also an amazing and a wonderful thing to do. And it's spring, everybody. So come on, be an angel. Be an angel in training. Think about what you could plant for someone you love, even if it's only cress on a piece of paper towel. Uh, it's delicious. I used to eat lettuce sandwiches years and years ago. I used to get these big, thick, uh, sort of like punnets of cress, and cut them really thick and cut the stalks and pile them into some bread and butter, and just, yeah, they would be that thick. And I loved them. I love cress sandwiches. Anyway, enough of what I love. Chris, how are we doing? Anyone got any comments or questions for us?
Oh, yeah. Judith says, I planted peonies 3 years ago. They should bloom this year, but I don't
Oh,
get enough
nice.
sun. I do have jonquils and many types of daffodils.
Yeah, nice. I love peonies. I always, whenever I see peonies, I always think of my father's garden, because we used to have lots of peonies in the garden, and they are so beautiful when they come out. They fall so easily, they don't last too long. The petals fall on them, but they are so incredibly beautiful. And you can get them from deep red to the palest of pinks. They're just beautiful.
Rhonda says, when I start to see the robins appear and hear their song early in the morning, I know spring is on the way and it makes me
Yes.
very happy. Life starts
Yeah.
again.
When I first came to America, it reminds me, right? Uh, you all know I'm British. Do you know that? Do you realise that I'm British? Yeah. I said good morning to Chris this morning, and she sort of sat back in the chair and she said, "Oh my goodness, you sounded so British." And I said, "That's because I am." And so in England, we have these beautiful robins. They're like, when you see them on Christmas cards, at the front of a Christmas card, they're sort of small and fat and round, and they have this beautiful big round chest that is bright scarlet, and they are very, very obviously and beautifully robins. So now I come and I'm living in America, and when I moved to Vermont, and I see these birds, and big. They're big. They're have sort of longish necks to them, and they have this red, sort of a brownish red breast, and then the rest of them is brown. I'm thinking, I wonder what they are. And I asked a friend one day, and she looked at me as if I was crazy. She said, "They're robins. Don't you know what a robin looks like?" And I'm thinking, everything is supposed to be like, you go to a restaurant in England, you have a reasonable meal. You go to a restaurant in America and it's twice the size. I mean, everything in America is supposed to be bigger and better,
We
and
are, we
and
are.
but yeah, I know. Well, yeah, okay, more and more so. And I thought, wow, well, your robins in America are even bigger and better, but they're not nearly as shiny. The red breast isn't as red, and they're not nearly as cute. I'm sorry to say that to you all, but they are not. So I'm thinking, golly, even robins are different in America than they are in England. But yes, when I first saw a robin in America, I'm thinking, that is not a robin. That can't possibly be a robin, but it is. But if you ever get the chance, or go on Google and Google our wonderful British robins, you'll see they are beautiful. They are small and fat and round and red breasted and so cute. All right, Chris.
Pamela says, with having a recent spiritual healing, I felt this energy lifting up and melting off of me. I had goosebumps. My mind felt so light and free. It reminds me of dormant plant bulbs with life inside, still
Exactly.
trying to understand it and move in the right direction to bloom.
Good, good. Well, healing is like that, because when we give healing, people think that, when we give healing, those of us who are healers, when we give healing, that we're giving healing to cure arthritis or to cure cancer or to cure a tumor or whatever. But first and foremost, I teach my students, when we give healing, first and foremost, we give healing to the soul. We bring light and love and purity to the soul. And when the soul responds and begins to grow bigger and brighter and more beautiful, then very often the physical self responds positively in a really good way. But what you're feeling is your spirit. The spirit is the energy field that surrounds the soul. That is the energy that the soul is emitting. And what you're feeling is, as the soul becomes more healed and as it gets bigger and brighter and is fed more and more, its energy field, that's the spirit that surrounds the soul, grows within you and fills you up and brings light and joy. And that's the joy of healing. Chris.
Uh, Pamela says, I am growing sourdough starter.
Oh, okay then. I'm not sure that counts. I'd have to think about it. But I suppose it's, of course, it's yeast, isn't it? And yeah, I'm still waiting for someone to give me a starter. I know you can go out and buy starters, can't you? But it's not quite the same as knowing where it came from. Um, but I would love it if you're growing sourdough. I'd like to know how it goes, and I'd like to know how the bread turns out, because I love sourdough bread. You can't buy it in, or you couldn't when I was there. You couldn't buy sourdough bread in England. Nobody had ever heard of it. But I'd really love it if you found something that you could put roots down and see what happens when you put your fingers in the soil and when you bury your bulb or your whatever it is, or your tree or your shrub or whatever you want, when you bury it in the ground, and you can feel and watch it as it grows and as it blooms. I have to think about, does sourdough count? Not sure that it does. What do you think, Chris?
If I were a betting man, I would think no, not for this exercise.
No, not quite the same, although I love the idea of it. Chris, keep going.
Rhonda says, I have plants all through my house. They give me great satisfaction when I see them thriving.
Yeah.
And
Well,
Laura's recommending succulents.
yes, yes. Well, they'll grow anywhere at any time. And you can take a piece off and just stick it in the ground and it grows all by itself. And they grow inside and outside, depending on where you live, of course. But they grow inside and outside here. Um, in Vermont, I used to have some absolutely beautiful ones that flowered incredibly beautiful, beautiful, beautiful blooms on them, and everybody used to comment on how well they did, but it was because they were in a big sunny spot. But they were indoor plants, so you can plant anything you like. There you go, Chris. A nice flowering cactus. You can do that. You can take it with you anywhere, or if you move, when you move, you can give it to your son and his wife as a gift. How about that?
I was actually just thinking, I have this one plant that was my father's mother, so my grandmother. So she was born late 1800s, right? It's a lily. And she had given it to my parents when she got older and wasn't going to take care of it. And they would put it outside in the summer and they'd bring it in the winter. And then when my parents died, I took it. So I still have this one bulb that is literally passed now into the third generation.
Wow.
And I think, because I'm reading some of the comments in our chat room, it's this exercise isn't so much about how you can become a green thumb. It's not about it's not really about the plant itself. In my mind, it's about the mindset we take when we go on this endeavor and how do we grow in conjunction with how the plant grows. And that's
Well,
how
when as the plant flourishes, it gives us hope. It gives us hope for the plant. It gives us hope for any new beginnings, and it gives us hope for new beginnings within our own selves.
yeah, so I just want to make sure that everyone in the chat room really, I mean, because they have wonderful ideas of what you can grow. For instance, Sandra says, I love to garden. It's my favorite thing to do, but it's still snowy here in Ohio. I'm growing a pineapple plant in my window that I started from a plant pineapple top, and
Yes.
it's really easy and it's doing great. And I think what I'm trying to say from what I'm reading in these comments is don't choose the easy thing. Choose the purposeful thing right now. Like really put your heart and mind and soul into this if this is an exercise that you're going to do and let it transform you.
Yes, I agree, but at the same time, I love it when you can grow things and you can watch them and they grow easily because it reminds us that perhaps life isn't necessarily the struggle we think it is. So so both work for me.
Yeah.
Keep going, Chris.
Karen says I'm growing romaine lettuce in an earth box and I so enjoy it.
An earth box. I don't know what an earth box is, but yeah,
Maybe something like a cold frame. Did you have those?
we have a cold frame. Yeah,
That's
we
what
used to
I
have
would
those.
guess it is.
Yeah, okay.
She says, my mom has a green thumb. She gifts me trees. I now have a star fruit tree and I love that it's from her.
Oh, nice. Yes, really nice. Very nice.
All right. Eric, our daffodil man, is wondering about if it's clevia or a kaffir lily, I guess, about the plant I was talking about. Um, let's see, what else do we have about plants? I'm thinking that's about it for plants, so I'd like to scroll back up to the top,
Go for
Rosemary,
it. Yeah.
and start with some questions that people had. Um, Teresa is asking, please contact my dad who left a month ago. His name is Reno.
Um, well, uh, I want you to keep asking the question, but it's not going to happen today, I don't think. And I'm getting nothing much about this from Grey Eagle, so I don't think we're going to get it today, but don't give up hope. That's why planting is so good because it keeps us hopeful.
Sharon says, good morning, Rosemary and Gray Eagle. I
Good
wanted to
morning.
thank you for being such a selfless, beautiful soul. Thank you for bringing light back into my life and home. You are a gift.
Oh, Sharon, thank you so much. That's very nice of you. But it was my pleasure. So,
Lorraine says, you're wearing a beautiful color on your blouse. It's spring like, and it's a great color for you.
well, thank you. I love this color, first of all. I love green. Uh, when I was a kid, green, I think green might still be my favorite color, although I like green and I love yellow. But with my green eyes, and now my grandson's eyes are the same as mine, and my daughter has green eyes. Hers is a slightly lighter shade of green, beautiful. But I suppose that's where my love of greens come from. Uh, when I look into my grandson's eyes, it's a bit weird, really, because it's like looking into my own. I'm sure some of you have had that feeling. And by the way, for all of you who want to know how his little puppy is doing, he finally named his puppy. He has a cockapoo who is now coming up to 11 weeks. He's 10 and a half weeks old. He's in New York with them. It was very hard to let him go. But although I, of course, was attached to, I'm talking about the puppy now, although I was attached to him, I always kept in mind that I had bought him specifically for my grandson. And my grandson said to me, because I did have to, his mum told him I didn't want a dog, but Mosey, that's me, Mosey, persuaded me. So he looked at me and he said, "Why did you want me to have a puppy?" Well, of course, aside from the fact that he's dog crazy, and he's been dog crazy since I can remember, since he was 2 or 3 years old. All he's talked about is dogs. All he draws is dogs. All he writes about when he writes stories is dogs. He loves me to tell him stories of dogs, and on and on and on. I said to him, "Well, I felt that you needed a friend." And with COVID and with kids not having play dates the same as they used to do, and with not having that personal interaction that kids used to have, I felt somehow it was the right time. Of course, I was given a lot of help from Grey Eagle, who many of you will know is an Apache. So I was given a lot of help from Grey Eagle, and we chose the puppy. We found the right one. He's exactly the right one for my grandson, and Reese is having a blast with him. And he finally has a name. He had a name before they left here, and his name is, wait for it, drum roll, his name is Apache. So the little puppy that we have, his name is Apache, which seemed appropriate to me. And Reese loves it. And the puppy, even though when he was here, he was already responding to the name. Would you be surprised about that? We were not surprised about that. So it's a name that really suits him, and Reese is very happy with it. So for those of you who wanted an update on the puppy, he's doing very, very well. Right. Where were we, Chris?
Did Grey Eagle have a dog, or did anyone in his tribe have a dog?
There were dogs, but not the same as, the Brits are historically a nation of dog lovers. I think the British people have probably have dogs as pets more than maybe any other nationality. We are a nation of dog lovers, and so so it sort of kind of comes naturally to us. But the Native Americans, they didn't do what we do with our dogs. They didn't cuddle them. They didn't have them sleep on their bed necessarily. Yes, we did, he says, occasionally, but not in the same way. They were not pets. They were working animals, and that was the way of that. They were part of the tribe. So that's all I'm getting from that for today. Keep going, Chris.
Well, you had answered partly. Lorraine's question was, how was the rest of your visit with Samantha and Reese?
Fabulous. I was so tired by the time they left. I washed, and some of you are going to say, how come you have so many towels? But I did wash the day after 17 towels. but I have a lot of towels, and I have beach towels, and I have pool towels, and then I have our regular bath towels and hand towels and so on. But I washed 17 large uh, sort of bath sized towels. Uh, and it's a funny thing, really, because everything is about energy. And the one thing I didn't wash that day, although, of course, I've gotten around to it since then, was the morning that they left, which was Sunday morning. I put out fresh small hand towels in their bathroom, and Reese, of course, needed to pee at the last minute, and then he washed his hands. And when I went in there after he'd gone, I'd put the towel in there fresh and clean, and it was sort of nice and straightened. And he pulls them down, washes his hands, and shoves it back in there. I could not bring myself to wash that towel because it still got his energy all over it. But there we are. Moving on, Chris.
Shamanth says on March 8th, it's International Women's Day. So happy Women's Day to both Rosemary and Chris in advance. You are
Oh,
both
thank you so
inspiring.
much. Well, what day is it on Saturday? Third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, or something? Eighth? Maybe we'll have on Saturday, which is story time. Maybe we'll have a woman's story. I have to think on that. Yeah, let's do something like that. But thank you, and to all of you out there who won't be connecting with us on the 8th, whatever day that is, a happy Women's Day to all of you too. Make sure, if it's Women's Day, make sure that you do at least one thing in the day that you want to do. How about that?
Sounds
Chris?
good. Karen says, good morning, Rosemary. I asked for healing from my neighbor, Helga. She's in the hospital fighting an infection. I have
Right.
been caring for her little dog.
Absolutely, certainly. Can you please keep us updated on her progress? But absolutely and definitely, yes.
Laura's asking, do my spirit guides have any messages for me?
By spirit guides, I'm hoping that you mean your family, your friends, your loved ones in the spirit world. And as I've said, today, no, we don't seem to be doing that today, but keep asking, keep hoping.
Nancy says, I did Lasana planting in the fall. So looking forward to watching it grow this spring. Lasana planting is planting bulbs of different flowers all in the same pot.
Oh, that sounds very interesting. I've never heard of that before. We need to check up on that, Chris. See what we can do. I'm pretty sure that I'm going to see if I can search out some hyacinths later on today, because I've already told everybody else how marvelous and fantastic. And every year when I see them, I think, fiddlesticks, I've missed it again. I've done, it's too late now to plant them. But I'm going to check that out today and see if I can't put some beautiful hyacinths in pots today.
Shamanth says, in a few days, on March 8th, again, what a popular day, I will be turning 32. Is there any advice or guidance from Gray Eagle or from my ancestors for the upcoming year regarding my career and life?
I think I'm listening to Grey Eagle here, and I'm thinking that the best thing, my darling, that you can do, 32 is such a lovely age. I think the best thing that you can do is just learn to be yourself. Don't be ever what you think other people expect you to be, because you don't know what's in somebody else's mind anyway. When we very often we get relationships, and we think, you sort of make compromises, and you which is you have to do in relationships, but you start to act in a way that perhaps you think that your partner or your potential or your workmates or whoever, you start to act in a way that you think they will like, rather than acting the way you like. So always be true to your own self, and always look to the positives. Remember, the best life you can live is to have a glass half full. If you're a half empty kind of a person, you're going to be continually disappointed, and I would hate that for you. Years and years ago, I was in Italy, and I was giving a seminar. It was a 3-day seminar, and I went to a man in the audience, and I called him out and asked him to come and sit at the front with me. And then I went to a lady and I asked her to come and sit in the front with me. And I said to the man, "Can you tell us your story?" And he said he was devastated. He'd lost a child and he just couldn't get past it, and he was devastated. And we had been talking about living a life of a glass half full as opposed to a glass half empty. And he said to me, "Rosemary," he said, I can't do it. I cannot see my life as a glass half full. I just cannot do it. I've lost my son and I've lost everything." And the audience was so sad for him. And then I said to the lady, could you tell us your story? And she began to tell us that she'd lost 2 sons and that she was devastated also, but that she was able to live her life with her glass a half full because she remembered all the joyful things and all the wonderful gifts that having those 2 sons had given to her. And as much as she was devastated by the loss, she was able to live her life half full with an attitude of life is good, may not be perfect, but it's good. And she was able to have that attitude because she remembered the loving arms of her children when they were small, the small gifts, the smiles that they gave, the laughter that they brought to her. And she described to people how if her glass was half empty, she wouldn't have been able to see those things. She would have lost those things. She would have lost the joy of all of the life that they had spent and all the joy that they had given to her. So she said, "I refuse to live my life with a glass half empty." And her attitude was wonderful. And I looked to the man who was listening to her. And sadly, I realized that no matter what she said, and no matter how much she said it, he was still going to go away with a glass half empty. And I said to him, "Can you possibly look now at your life?" And I was able to see his son, and I was able to give him a message from his son. And he was ecstatic, and he was crying, and it was painful for him. I was able to give the lady a message from her children too. And I looked at him and I said, "Out of all of these hundreds of people in this room, you were chosen. Your son tried to give you a positive gift of coming to you and telling you how much he loved you and that he isn't dead. Can you at least, for this moment in time, look at the glass as half full, because you were chosen?" And he was able to manage to nod and say, "I'll try." It's all about attitude. Everything is about attitude. If you think you have to try to see the joy in life, how sad is that for you? If you can't just remember the joy and understand, as painful as life can be and how devastating it is, there is still joy. There's joy in your memories. There's joy in having been a part of your children's lives. There's joy in anything and everything if you search for it. So, my darling, happy birthday. 32 years, oh my goodness, I can remember when I was that age. 32 years old. Can you try and stay positive no matter what devastation faces you in the future? And I'm not saying it will, but I'm saying to you, we all have ups and downs in life. Try and keep a half full glass in mind as you go through life and look for the joys, even if you have to look through murky waters to find the joys in life. They are there if you look for them. Chris.
All right, this is from Andrew. It's a little long, but good. This has probably been asked before, but we sleep because of our bodies. So when you are asleep, Rosemary, does Gray Eagle nip over to another time zone and be a guide to someone else? Also, as an aside, has Gray Eagle ever bumped into White Eagle, who was a guide for Mrs. Grace Cook?
Yes, I know of White Eagle, and I also know of Red Feather. I don't know. We know of lots of different amazing guides. Um, let's get back to the question of sleep. And when I'm asleep, does Grey Eagle hop off and leave me, or go somewhere else? No, we're busy. We travel. We that's very often the time when my physical body is asleep. That's often the time when we go out there and we give healing to my patients, or we go and explore different things for whatever reason. Just because my body is sleeping and needs its rest, which of course it does not mean that my soul is sleeping. My soul the takes the advantage of that rest time to, okay, let's go, let's see what else there is out there. And luckily, Gradle has taken me to some amazing places, and we've had some amazing experiences. Did I just blow your mind, Andrew? I hope so. Chris.
Well, I'm going to finish the rest of what he had written. So he said, this isn't a question, but just a realization. I come from a science background. I would have described myself as an agnostic. When I had a serendipitous meeting with a medium who described my wife's face with a specific scar that I've never seen on anybody else in life but her, I thought, it's definitely her, and her soul has survived. The medium I had never met before, he had never met my wife before, nor were there links of people who knew my wife that knew the medium. Then I thought, if that's true, that my wife has survived, then Christ exists, and so do all the angels. It might not seem that much to you, but it was a big revelation to me.
Oh, no, no, no. It seems like a big deal to me, Andrew, and I'm thrilled, absolutely thrilled. You made me smile when you said a serendipitous meeting. There are no accidents. You know that, don't you? I'm sure that your wife was guiding you towards someone who could give you that incredible and fantastic evidence that you obviously received. Chris, keep going.
Eric says today is Girls Festival in Japan, and it's also called Dolls Day.
Okay.
And then I'm trying to scroll back to our dear friend Dean, who is telling us about the robins. And there are so many things in this chat room here.
We can give you a minute, Chris. Don't feel that you've got to
Well, we're
rush.
coming right up on 12, so I'm trying to get as many things in as I can. So Dean says the English robins are part of the chat family related to flycatchers. The American robin is a thrush.
Looks more like a thrush to me, I have to say. Thank you, Dean. Thank you for that. A little piece of information. Was it my imagination? Surely that's not a robin. It looks like more like a thrush, a big thrush with a sort of brownish thing on its chest. Now you've clarified for me that a robin in America is not really a robin.
So
Keep going.
Jeannie says we spent the winter in St. Croix last year.
Oh,
And
nice.
every time I walked out the door, I saw a huge root bound snake plant that had turned almost white due to lack of care. After months of asking my husband to grab that plant for me, he presented it to me one day when he could get help moving it. I babied it, fed it, and put it in some fertilized soil. It
Nice.
came back to life. It has grown 3 feet in height and is the greenest plant you could imagine. My daughter sends me pictures of it on a regular basis. So satisfying for someone who doesn't have green fingers. I'm pretty sure it loves me as much as I love it.
Oh, thank you for that story. That's a fantastic story. But now I want you to do something this week. It doesn't have to be big and it doesn't have to grow 3 feet, but I'd love you to have that experience of planting something, nurturing something, in with the idea of connecting with your soul, with actually a conscious decision to connect the soul with the plant, because that's what's important. Chris.
Mary says on March 17th, my brother passed 22 years ago. I miss him so. Is he happy?
I'm hearing a whispering yes. And isn't that St. Patrick's Day?
Yes.
So my sister's birthday is on St. Patrick's Day. So yes, I've heard this whispered yes. I know that lots of you want messages from your loved ones in the spirit world. Chris and I are this week going to be setting up some stuff. And one of the things that we're setting up is another webinar where I'm going to be giving messages for a solid 3 hours from people in the spirit world to all of you out there who join our webinar. Of course, we can't guarantee we're going to give a message to everybody, but it's an amazing thing because even if you personally don't get a message, listening to the messages and hearing how clear they are and how much evidence there is given in those messages is really gives hope and really hope and joy. I think everybody enjoys it. So if you want to think about how can you get a message from your loved ones, that's one of the ways to go. So we'll be letting you know about that. So keep checking on our website, rosemaryaltea.com, and we'll let you know one way or another when the next webinar is going to be. I think, Chris, are we out of time?
We are definitely over time. Yes.
So, with that in mind, thank you, all of you for joining us. We will be back on Saturday, definitely, with our story time. We're going to try and fit in some off the cuff stuff, and I have to it's my fault, so nobody else's fault. I have not connected with my two friends, Kay and Kay. We are going to set up, hopefully, in March another cracking up session, which I know you all loved. It's my fault. I've just been so busy with puppies and children and family, and you know how that goes. And of course, anyway, that's my excuse. That's it. But I will be back on Saturday morning with story time, and we will bear in mind Women's Day, and I'll see if I can come up with a story, a woman's story for all of you. It might be me, it could be somebody else. We'll have to wait and see. So until I see you again, thank you, all of you for joining us. Thank you, Chris. You do a fantastic job. I would especially like to say thank you to Great Eagle because he really does an amazing job for all of us. And until I see you again, everybody, thank you so much for all of your love, for all of your energy, for all of your participation, all of that stuff. Bye bye.